All right, Football Fan Cave kicking us off here. NFL recap of this week's action of NFL football. I've been assigning themes to each week of the season, and I think this week was the official week to provide heart attacks for our gambling friends. Couple of heavy favorites tied in a lot of teases fell or were on the verge of falling, giving folks sometimes to clutch their chests and their wallets as the Carolina Panthers started off 14-0 against the Miami Dolphins, ended up
Wow.
losing by 21, I believe, and blew that spread. They have yet to cover a spread so far this year. And Miami, the explosive offense doesn't stop. Tyreek Hill stealing a fan's phone, doing a backflip, kind of an epic celebration, but naturally going to get fined for that. I would love to see what his fine total is on the year. I'm going to look that up and see if
Okay.
that's continuing to tally for next week. The Buffalo Bills in Sunday Night Football survive on the last play of the game being a relatively obvious DPI that wasn't called by the referees, and they survived the New York Giants only scoring 14 points. They had no points basically through half, and the Giants really sold on an opportunity to put 9 on the board. Tried running the ball with no timeouts and 15 seconds left. Couldn't get back to spike it and get one more try, and the clock runs out on the half. And then last play of the game, they go for a play action kind of toss to the receiver over the middle, and maybe they should have run it on that play. So some poor management there by Brian Daboll, and the Giants miss an opportunity here, and it looks like their season is already over. Shout out to Tyrod Taylor though, who was finally back playing. He's had some bad luck in recent years, so it's nice to see him flailing around. Cleveland Browns get the biggest upset of the weekend, taking down the San Francisco 49ers, who were
Wow.
on a roll and seemingly the best team in the NFL. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey goes down, and Brock Purdy, after that, didn't look so MVP like. And I think it just really shows how intensely valuable Christian McCaffrey is. But the Niners started to look a little bit more exposed. The defense was great as always, and they obviously got to feast against PJ Walker, XFL legend for the Cleveland Browns today. It's weird that we don't really know what's going on with Deshaun Watson, but in a defensive battle, Cleveland just did just enough to squeak by, and that's a tough one for the Niners. Obviously, they're still in great position at the top of their division, but looking ahead, that was one that you want to have going into some of these divisional games, and they don't get it, and Cleveland kind of saves their season with that tight victory. Another team that really was written off and people had as a 1-5 team in the way that they were treated in the media and how it's been going. But with the gauntlet of the schedule they've had in the first 6 weeks, it is remarkable that the New York Jets are 3-3. They get a late interception return, and Brees Hall walks it in, and they shock the Philadelphia Eagles, who lose earlier in their season than anyone had anticipated. They look a lot more vulnerable than they did last year, with a stronger strength of schedule, of course, but it is the first time that New York Jets have beaten the Philadelphia Eagles in their franchise history.
Holy
So a big
shit.
win, a lot of
Wow.
teasers tied to that game that got burned. And yeah, Browns Jets this weekend, big gambling killers for any of the public who are heavily leveraged on either of those games. All right, fantasy player of the week here. Got to shout out Justin Tucker, a kicker who is often one of the highest, if not the highest kicker drafted in fantasy drafts. But it just feels like it's been a while since he's actually delivered on how great of a kicker he is. The Ravens haven't used him as much in the past 2 seasons, but in London against the Titans, he had 4 field goals in the first half, finished with 19 fantasy points. Just a big lift for any of the fantasy teams that needed a boost from their kicker this week, because fantasy was all over the board. but Justin Tucker gets my fantasy MVP this week. Not often that you see a kicker swing the tide of these games.
How'd you
And
do?
win in one league, loss in the other.
Okay.
It's a pretty mediocre season so far. I am struggling at the running back position. I had to
Yeah.
start Justice Hill and Latavius Murray this week.
I don't know who either of those guys are.
And so we'll leave that as it is. It is painful. The London game in the NFL, it's a gimmick, and I don't need to have it every week. So
Mhm.
let's have our one more game in Germany, but I really don't think we need it every week. That's my thought on that. And until we have a European division, which would be kind of fun, until that happens, stop playing a game every week overseas. It messes up things quite a bit, and it's far too early. Games to look forward to next week: Dolphins, Eagles, Lions, Ravens are the ones I have circled on the calendar. It's nice. I'm finally going to have an actual weekend off to watch these games and provide some true insight into what I'm seeing. But we'll circle back next Monday and see if that's actually the case. And until then, that's been Football Fan Cave.